Well, just like all of my encounters these days, there's a person on the other side of the screen, and that's how we're doing business these days during the pandemic. The other person is someone I've known for, I think, 35 years, Paul Williams, and he is the lead negotiator for the Beskotomi Nation. Paul, I think it would be fun to find out how you go about negotiating with people who are 1,000 miles away. You can only see through Zoom. You can't kind of read their body language as well as you can, and you can't walk out into the hall and have what you call a caucus. So, how do you go about it?
We recognize the limitations and we roll with it. We've had the conversations. I mean, on the one hand, a significant chunk of our negotiating team is on the American side of the river. They can't come into Canada. The federal negotiators can't leave Ottawa. That is, they aren't going to be traveling for the foreseeable future. What it means, and we are very careful because some of our negotiators are elders and are particularly vulnerable at this time. So all those limitations mean we do things a little different. And I think this applies to everybody's talks, but it applies to ours in spades for the reasons you mentioned and the reasons I just did. So what we did is we said, and for some reason, a Zoom meeting, by the time 3 hours are up, you're exhausted in ways that you wouldn't be in an all-day in-person meeting. And we're not sure why yet. But what we've done is we've said, instead of having 2.5 days and 10 items on the agenda, let's do 2.5 hours and have 2 things on the agenda. We'll have more meetings, and every time we have a meeting, we'll get a couple of things done, but we'll do them well. And the other thing is we pick the stuff we can do remotely rather than the stuff that we would need to do in person.
What do you need to do in person that you can't do remotely?
Well, like you say, some of the really tough issues, we really do get stuff done by going out in the hallway and saying, geez, Jim, did you really mean that? Is that your position, or is it your negotiating position? Can we talk about options informally? Can we go for a walk together? We can't do that stuff in a Zoom meeting. And the other thing is, in a normal in-person meeting, we scribble notes to each other. In a Zoom meeting, you can hear people clicking away, sending emails to one another, but it isn't nearly the same thing. So we're adjusting, we're learning. And the other thing is, some things are delicate enough that you do need that whole panoply of caucusing, taking time out, reading body language, reading.
You can't just stand up and stretch or say, I'm going to go to the men's room, I'll be right back. It's a little more formal encounter, I guess.
It's stiff. And one thing it's an essential ingredient of every Indigenous negotiation is we eat together. It's what humans do. It reduces us to a human level. It gives a chance to talk together as people. And in a Zoom meeting, it's straight business. I mean, aside from, because we're in Canada, we talk about the weather first. But after that, it's weirdly more intensive.
But can't you still eat together on the Zoom meeting?
Can't smell it.
True. I have a theory about why it might be exhausting, and that is that people are looking at the screen. And I think McLuhan said that puts your brain in alpha states. I'm not sure if a computer screen is the same as a TV screen, but it's certainly a different experience than looking in the lens of the camera. And the lens of the camera is something I've been looking at since I was 12 years old because I grew up on TV. And it isn't exhausting to do a 4 or 5 hour election or a 3-hour broadcast. But I think looking at the screen, maybe. What do you think of that?
I agree, and also part of it is you're looking at yourself. You can see yourself on the screen, and that's upsetting. We're not used to it.
And that's how you end up with somebody looking like this or like that, and you end up negotiating with the person's ear, which is really weird. Eye contact is important, even if it's mediated through this technology. And I've seen very senior people in a baseball cap looking out the hotel room window across the world, and they just don't look professional. How do the people that you're working with look?
I like that. I was in court yesterday, sorry, 2 days ago, and it's Superior Court in Quebec. Normally it would involve 10 lawyers in black and white robes. And instead, and the judge was robed, but the rest of us, the guy in the t-shirt, the guy with the 2-month experimental beard, the woman whose kid runs across the screen, the guy whose dog won't stop barking. I think it's refreshing, and the people with ugly paintings behind them, it's refreshing to see that we are human beings. And if it humanizes us, so much the better.
But it's looking in the camera that is the human interaction, not looking at the side of someone's face. That's what I mean by the focus on the other person through the lens.
We haven't figured that out yet. But in terms of Besco and Makati negotiations, basically we've talked with Canada and New Brunswick, and we've said, we're going to do what we can. We're going to have more meetings. We're going to have shorter meetings. We're going to get done the stuff that's on our agenda. And it's not easy.
What's your prediction? When the pandemic is over, let's say there is a vaccine and good treatments and so on, are we going to be using video conferencing more because we got used to it, or are we going to be sick of it and not use it at all?
My prediction is, among other things, we're going to have a real mix. Like right now we're used to phone conference calls, and we recognize their limitations. We're not used to video conferencing, and I don't know about you, but every video conference I've been at, the first 5 to 10 minutes is taken up in getting everybody online, resolving technical glitches. Some people are on mute and don't know they are.
Some people aren't on mute and should be.
Yeah, we'll get better at it. It'll take us a while. But I think we also have to identify what's a phone thing, what's a video thing, what's an in-person thing.
Yeah, they will be different, as you say, with eating. Do you have any advice for anyone who has to conduct business or family business or interact with other people on video conferencing? Any advice?
Keep it under 3 hours. Prepare as if you were going for a real meeting with a person, not just an image on the screen, because the subject matter doesn't change. And don't be too ambitious about how much you can deal with.
Good stuff, Paul. Good stuff.
Take breaks.
Thanks very much for sharing.
My pleasure.